Welcome back to The Explainer. So, I want you to think for a second about that one friend, maybe a family member or a colleague you have, who just never posts online. Literally, nothing. No selfies, no vacation albums, no perfectly framed, top-down pictures of their lunch. In a world that constantly rewards us for showing off the highlight reel, their digital silence can kind of feel like a complete mystery, right? But, as we're going to unpack today, this behavior isn't random at all. It actually reveals a profound level of confidence, emotional intelligence, and mindfulness. So let's dive right in.
We've all heard the modern proverb, if you don't post it, did it even happen? Honestly, when you go on a gorgeous hike, celebrate a huge milestone, or eat an absolutely amazing meal, there's this almost automatic reflex to pull out your phone and document it. Even if it means your food gets totally cold while you try to find the perfect lighting. You know the feeling. We have been subtly trained to believe that a life lived fully actually requires an audience to be real. We've started equating validation with value. But what happens when someone just completely steps outside of that whole system?
Well, it's super easy to look at these quiet individuals and assume they're just antisocial or painfully shy. Maybe they're hiding something or just falling behind the times. Actually, scratch that, because psychological research paints a completely different picture. Rather than hiding out, these folks actually possess incredibly high emotional maturity, a really strong privacy orientation, and deep psychological strength. Their absence online isn't some weird anomaly or a sign of depression. It's an entirely different psychological framework for navigating the world.
To figure out why they don't post, we first kind of have to look at why the rest of us do. And it largely boils down to this concept called impression management. It's that deeply human need to control how other people perceive us. I mean, let's be real with ourselves here. Most of what we post isn't just communication. It's identity crafting. It's basically a giant unconscious audition for belonging. Every single photo, every clever caption, it's a carefully constructed signal asking the world, hey, this is who I am. Do you approve? But our non-posters, they've intentionally opted out of this specific system. They simply don't feel the need to manage your impression of them.
Okay, moving on to section 1. The inner scoreboard and how these individuals source validation from within.
There's a really powerful idea to consider here. Confidence doesn't need external validation. It walks in a room quietly and everybody notices. I absolutely love that. True self-assurance doesn't require a digital highlight reel, right? People who stay quiet online just don't need to narrate their lives or constantly market their milestones because they're deeply anchored in themselves. Their personal growth is sacred, it's private, and it's entirely unstaged.
And this is driven by what psychologists call an internal locus of evaluation. Sounds a bit academic, but it basically just means judging yourself strictly by your own personal standards and values, rather than relying on external approval. These individuals have developed true autonomy. They know exactly what they did on their vacation, and they definitely don't need 300 likes to confirm that the experience was meaningful. They find deep fulfillment in personal accomplishments, and they meet their psychological needs completely offline.
So, building an offline identity means you draw your confidence from your values, not your visibility. This leads to this amazing thing known as autonomous self-regulation. That's the ability to make choices entirely free from social pressure. Think about it. If they want to start running, try a weird new hobby, or completely change their career, they just do it. They let their identity grow and evolve naturally without the peanut gallery weighing in and without needing constant proof of their progress. It is just a profoundly free way to live.
Which brings us to section 2, protecting the attention budget. Because attention is a finite currency, and how we spend it dictates the quality of our days.
The real secret weapon here is high self-boundary clarity. This is your psychological ability to know exactly where your emotional limits are and to fiercely protect them long before you ever hit burnout. Non-posters are often highly sensitive to emotional noise. They use this crystal clear boundary to filter out the chaos, the overstimulation, the endless comparison traps, and the toxic controversies of social feeds. They just prefer peace over performance. They know that handing thousands of people access to their nervous system is basically a fast track to absolute exhaustion.
Now, protecting that budget requires a few key shifts. First, you have to treat your attention like a daily limit, exactly like money in your wallet. Second, avoiding the fragmented focus of endless scrolling, or what I like to call social snacking, those tiny, distracting little bites of interaction you take throughout the day. And third, taking that saved energy and investing it into deep, meaningful plans. By doing this, non-posters save their cognitive resources for actual, real-world presence. They even allow themselves to experience creative boredom. like just staring out a window or waiting in line without instantly reaching for a screen. And honestly, that is exactly where imagination and new ideas are actually born.
And consider the power of just 10 minutes. A really landmark study from the University of Pennsylvania found that limiting social media use to just 10 minutes a day leads to massive reductions in loneliness and depression. 10 minutes. That's less time than it takes to drink your morning coffee. By just opting out of the constant comparison cycle, non-posters are quietly, powerfully protecting their mental health in ways the rest of us are often still struggling to figure out.
All right, Section 3, the reality of connection. If they aren't connecting online, what does their social life actually look like?
Well, it looks a lot like selective vulnerability. This is the ability to open up only to those specific people who have earned your trust and are emotionally safe. Choosing privacy is not the same as secrecy, and it certainly isn't loneliness. It's discernment. They understand that not everyone deserves a front-row seat to their life. This selective approach protects them from all that digital drama, gossip, and manipulation, and it allows them to form relationships that are incredibly secure.
So instead of broadcasting a curated identity which relies on quick dopamine loops and performative connection, non-posters practice small-circle intimacy. They tell their stories face-to-face, actually tailoring the narrative to the human being sitting right across from them. This allows for raw vulnerability and deep trust. When you tell a story in person, you get rich facial feedback. You see a smile, you feel the empathy in the room. It's infinitely warmer and more fulfilling than counting empty metrics like little hearts or thumbs-up emojis.
Next up, Section 4, the power of presence. Stepping out from behind the camera lens profoundly alters how a person experiences life in real time.
This introduces a really powerful concept, psychological ownership. It's that profound feeling that a thought, a memory, or an experience belongs deeply, purely, and exclusively to you. Think about it. When you post a beautiful moment online, that sense of ownership actually fades just a little bit. The experience becomes shared property. It's suddenly open to the public's judgment, misinterpretation, or even just their fleeting 2-second consumption. Non-posters actively guard their ownership. They keep their moments unposted to protect their purity, making sure the joy remains totally untouched by algorithms.
Their rhythm for this is highly intentional. First, they experience the moment fully. They are inside the moment, right? Not hovering outside of it, trying to find the best angle. Then they reflect on it privately, just letting the life happen first. And only then do they share it selectively, if at all. They guide themselves through this incredibly healthy, mindful process before ever deciding if making a moment public actually adds any real value to it.
Bringing all these psychological traits together brings us to our final part, Section 5, the quiet rebellion. The ultimate trade-offs here are pretty stark. The digital illusion traps us in this constant loop of social comparison, an external focus, and eventually total emotional burnout. But the offline reality? That fosters authentic congruence. That basically means who they are inside completely matches how they live outside. They maintain an internal focus and enjoy measurable, proven increases in emotional stability and overall life satisfaction. Logging off isn't just about avoiding technology, it is a powerful, intentional act of self-preservation in a profoundly noisy world. There is such a beautiful realization here. Silence is not emptiness. It's space. Space to think, space to grow, space to feel, space to live without constantly explaining yourself. The unseen people, the ones missing from your daily feeds, are very often the ones living the most vibrant, the most deeply present, and the most emotionally intelligent lives out there. They simply don't need applause to feel alive.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. Are you living your life, or are you just performing it? The psychology of those who don't post holds up a really clear mirror to the rest of us. It reminds us that not everything meaningful has to be witnessed by an audience, and that sometimes the truest expression of who you are is found in the quiet moments you keep entirely for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it sparked some curiosity about your own digital habits and the incredible, quiet power of simply being present. Catch you next time.
Yes.